but I lived in Los Angeles for many years in Southern California, and
Oh, you did?
uh,
Where do you live?
I, well, I started out in El Segundo,
Uh-huh.
and then moved up to just south of Brentwood, and then wound up living in Brentwood just before I left for Mexico. So,
Oh, nice.
you know,
My daughter lives in Brentwood.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
So, but
I was interested that you moved to Mexico. How do you like it there?
oh, I love it. Well, I saw on your site too, you profiled San Miguel, and that's where I live most of the time now. I
Wow.
have a place down at the beach, but I spend most of my time in San Miguel de Allende. And I was on a trip to Los Angeles when the lockdown occurred. I just left Mexico the day before
Yeah.
and got stuck in Dallas. So I've been in an Airbnb here for uh, 2 months now
In Dallas?
in Dallas. So it's the
Oh,
longest I've been in the United States continuously in the last 10 years. So it's,
wow. I noticed you were part of the International Living. I had taken the Great Escape Publishing course, and I know that they're
oh, uh-huh.
really involved with that.
Yes, yeah, yeah, they do they have lots of things. Now, when I started with them, which has been about 11 years ago now,
Uh-huh.
they didn't have much in the way of the Fund Your Life thing, and that was really kind of what we were talking about. And in the end, that was, now they have, I don't know, a dozen or so people that provide different training programs and adventures and that kind of thing. So it's great to have seen it grown over the decade.
Yeah, definitely did. I didn't end up going into writing for magazines, but it was a really interesting class because I,
Uh-huh.
I'm pretty much sticking with blogging. It's kind of hard to do both at the same time.
Yeah, no, blogging takes a lot of energy. Our site started out as a WordPress site
Yeah.
11 years ago, and it takes a lot of energy.
Yeah, it does.
uh,
I like it though. I've been doing it since or working as a blogger since about 2008. So
oh wow. Well, I think I mean, it really keeps your juices flowing and your mind sharp and that kind of thing. And I think we kind of share the same idea that if you're not doing something to stay sharp, you're kind of going backwards. And
yeah, I was interested because I haven't had a chance to read the whole book yet, but I did
uh-huh.
read the PR release. But I
Oh,
wanted
sure.
to because it sounds really interesting. Because I've always been into working for myself.
Yes.
I've been a voice actor also for like 40 years. So
I saw that. That's a great occupation to have. In fact, that's, where all these stars wind up. It's so much easier. You don't have to sit in makeup. You don't have to, you show up, you've got some line. I mean, it's obviously, a lot of people think they can do voice acting, and no, it's, you know,
everybody does. I know.
yes,
And,
yes, yeah.
and you're right about the celebrities. They kind of took over. It's kind of
Yes,
made it a little bit hard for people that weren't. But
right. Yeah. You mean I don't have to show up on a set, and you mean I don't have to get makeup, and you mean I don't have to go promote it, and
yeah, and they
yeah,
make as much as they do, just like working 8 hours a day.
right. Yes, yes.
Yeah, now it's been kind of challenging because you have to have your own home studio.
Oh,
I
interesting.
mean, I have
Yes.
a mic and everything, but now especially because of the pandemic, everybody's setting up these really expensive recording studios, with
Oh, how interesting.
Source Connect and all these different things.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
well, if you want to call me, that's fine.
Right.
I'm going to be blogging.
Yeah. Well, that's the interesting thing about freelancing is, we've had a number of people in our program who went into voiceovers for the first time,
Yeah,
and there is the $10,000 movie trailer voiceover,
right.
and then there's the $25 30-second here's what our website is about, and there's now markets all in between.
Mhm.
In fact, I was talking one day with Leo Laporte, the guy that has the computer tech show. He started out actually being on the radio in Los Angeles, the the
Yeah.
tech guy thing, and and he was saying, oh, trailers. So he tried to get into that at one point, and it's just he said it's the people that do that have the golden throat, and
They do. They do
they
a
do
lot.
all the stuff. But and I explained to him that no, there's lots of options now. It's not just movies that need, you know, the owner of a business rarely has a great voice for narration, and every website now needs a 90-second explainer video of what the heck they do, and so there's just been lots more opportunity created.
Yeah, that's for sure. I have this goofy kid voice, so I'm sort of like stuck in the goofy kid voice.
Yes, I saw that. That must be great to be playing 8-year-olds. It keeps you young, right? That's
Yes, no, it does. It does.
yeah,
People have no idea how old I am.
yeah. There was a kind of a famous voice. The woman that used to voice Scooby Doo
Mhm.
came into one of our programs, and she went on to have a big talent agency that got merged with one of the three biggest talent agencies in LA. I forget her name, but
Mhm.
she was the original voice of Scooby Doo. So she had that, uh, uh,
Yeah. Oh,
you know,
those.
going back to the 50s.
Yeah, that was like wasn't June Foray, was it? No. No, she didn't.
No,
Somebody else. Yeah.
because several different people have voiced Scooby Doo,
Yeah.
and
I ended up doing a lot of Japanese anime for some reason.
oh, how interesting! What a great niche.
Yeah, it just fell into it. It wasn't that I was a fan of it or anything.
Right, sure.
But in the 80s, this studio was doing it, and I just got involved with it and just was working like crazy for a long, long time.
Wow.
Now there's a lot of newer, younger people coming in, and even though it doesn't matter what you look like, they do like to invite people to go to conventions. So
Oh, I see. Yeah.
I've been to several conventions, quite a
Oh,
few
uh-huh.
actually, and yeah, sometimes you make more money doing that than you do,
Yeah.
and you get to travel, which is nice.
Yeah, isn't that amazing? That's just people that were in that played supporting roles in Star Trek finance their retirement signing autographs at these conferences
Oh
or
yeah, I've done
yeah.
some with this. It was like in combination with a Star Trek convention one time.
Oh, interesting. Wow.
Yeah, it was long. It was in the 80s. It was the show I did called Robotech that was kind of popular on TV.
Oh, how interesting.
Yeah.
So that was was it where people could come in, fans could come in, or was it?
Yeah, it was in San Francisco, and we had
Uh-huh.
like it was kind of right after it had come out, and we were having as long a lines for autographs as George Takei, which I thought was
Wow. Yes, that's yeah. You really get to see the comparison in that kind of wow.
yeah, and they're still really huge. I'm supposed to go to one. Sorry, I'm supposed to
No
go to
worries.
one in Fort Lauderdale in November. Hopefully, I'll be able to go.
Yeah, yeah. Who knows with all the
Yeah.
COVID thing, but it seems to be, slowing down, thank God. But
Yeah. I was just interviewing that other blog post that you saw about living in Mexico.
mhm.
Um, they were saying that I guess now they've pretty much cracked down on the pandemic down there.
Yes.
Yeah. So.
Well, that's the thing is I can't get back there, but I don't want to get back there. I mean, because they haven't hit their peak yet, and probably won't for another 2 or 3 weeks.
Oh yeah.
And the facilities in the U.S., even though stretched, are far better on their worst day than it would be in Mexico under similar circumstances. They don't have the kind of the excess capacity,
Yeah.
and so health wise, if you got it would be better to be in the U.S. than
That's
down there. So it doesn't make a lot of sense to rush back down there.
yeah. Wow.
But the government won't let you go. I mean, if you're over 60, you can't even get on an airplane. I mean, customs won't let you, or immigration won't let you leave the country if you're a U.S. citizen over
Oh,
60. So,
I didn't know there was an age cutoff. I
yeah.
wow. Oh, bummer.
Yeah. Well, they say what they're going to do is they're going to open Mexico for tourists first. You
Yeah,
know, and of course, all these things are swirling around, but I usually go to the U.S. consulate in Mexico, and that's where I feel like I get the best information. And they're supposed to decide on June 22nd when they start opening up for tourism,
yeah,
because that's a huge part of Mexico's economy. And, but the article I read said that even at that, they weren't going to allow tourists over age 60, you know, and so,
wonder for how
but the
long.
thought, well, they said it might be 2 weeks, it might be a month. I mean,
Oh,
it's in
okay.
the overall scheme of things, it's not a big deal, but I'm just getting so accustomed now to ordering food on Walmart, and you know, it's just like I'm going to be spoiled when I get back there, because none of this stuff existed when I first moved down there. You know, the
Yeah.
ordering at home, and Uber didn't exist when I moved down there, and all that kind of thing. So it's just a whole different lifestyle.
Wow, what a trip. No,
Yeah.
I had thought about doing that. I thought, it's like like Los Angeles is insane to try to live in.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It
Now I'm
took.
in a room somewhere. It's like,
Oh wow. Yeah. No, Los Angeles is well. The traffic just got so bad. I moved to San Diego in 1980, and then moved up to Orange County in about 87. Went to Boston for a couple of years, and then was back in Los Angeles basically for the rest of my career before I moved to Mexico. So it's kind of.
I lived in Orange County and I went to high school and college there,
Oh really?
close to Mesa.
Oh yeah, no, that's exactly where I lived, at the Fairview exit, right off Costa
Yeah.
Mesa.
Yeah, I was in
Yeah.
one of those apartments there for a while, and
Oh yeah.
all my I moved there when I was about like fifth, sixth grade, I guess.
Oh, that's neat.
Yeah, and then
Yeah, that's.
came back to LA in the mid '70s to
Oh
be
wow.
an actor. It's like,
Oh yeah, that's. Yeah, you and a million other people that year probably.
yeah, yeah. Well,
That's a
I ended up doing some. I mean, I did theater and I did
nice.
was in a couple of movies and
Oh, very cool.
then fell into the voiceover thing. So then after I had kids, it was like mostly all voiceovers because it was
Yes, yeah. Well, you found your special talent, and
yeah.
the movie thing is so competitive. It's just like you know, it's like being an NBA player or something like that. There's a lot of kids that think they're going to be basketball heroes, and you know, there's a million kids and 150 player positions, so it just doesn't
Yeah.
work out. And it just that I mean, I living in LA so long, knew actors and wannabe actors, and some that had reasonable levels of success, but
Yeah.
it was it's just you're always getting ready for the next audition, and how am I going to really distinguish myself, and
But
that kind of.
it helped me as far as like becoming an entrepreneur because I sort of had to. My husband passed away, leaving me with two
Uh,
kids, and so it was like I had
oh
to
wow.
get out. I couldn't just go get a regular job, so I've always been working as in some sort of entrepreneurial type of thing. On
Oh,
the
that's
side
neat.
also. That's why I
Wow.
thought your book was great because so many people are complaining about being out of work, obviously.
Right. Yeah. 40 million now.
But
Yeah.
the thing is that there's so many ways that you can make money with, if you really put your mind to it.
Yes. Yeah. It's ridiculous. And in one of the workshops that we do, you know, we go through a lot of the websites that are freelance marketplaces, you know, and that's just freelance. You know, we have one of our members right now is making money by she puts a video camera up and records her reactions to a video she's watching of a recipe being prepared, and she gets like $20 for watching this 5-minute video, and they give her a new video every 3 or 4 days.
Wow.
And so it's quick, it's fun, and whoever thought that they would want that.
Yeah, and then plus when you're working online, you can do it from anywhere.
Yes, yes. I just read an article about actually, I know the guy. He signed up as a mock trial juror.
Yeah,
So lawyers are looking for people that would have the same psychological makeup as who they would select for a jury, and see, their.
it's like the show Bull. Like
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
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 That would be kind of interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like you don't have to leave or anything. So
Right. Right. You're just. Yeah. Right there. There was one of our coaches. This is her all-time. This is one of her stories. So she wakes up one morning and she looks at her phone, and she's been invited to a job to take a survey to give a little feedback on what the survey was like. And so she accepts the job in bed, and the guy happened to be online, so he awarded the contract to her right away. And she did it, and I think made $45 in 15 minutes before she got out of bed.
nice.
So
Yeah, I also got into, like, for a while I was setting up websites for people. I learned
I
just taught myself how to do it.
wow.
So now I'm not as interested in that as much, even though it was good money. It just was so much time spent looking
Right.
at the computer and not getting up off my butt.
Yes, yeah. Once you start setting up websites and you have clients, and the hard part of that is anything that goes wrong with the website, they look for you to fix it.
Yeah.
And it's a good business if you can charge to set things up and charge a maintenance fee. But so many small business owners just have the mindset of, well, you said you'd set up my website, and you
Yeah.
never, it can turn into
Yeah, I was
an alligator.
I still have a few people I'm doing that for.
Wow.
But I just enjoy, doing like affiliate marketing and
Oh, very cool. Yeah.
sponsored posts and things like that.
Oh, that's nice. So
Yeah.
do you have a big Facebook presence, or?
Yeah, I have about 5,000 on
Oh,
Facebook,
that's great.
then a whole bunch on Twitter, several different accounts.
Yeah, yeah.
Pinterest is actually my biggest traffic.
Oh, how interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, Pinterest has been great.
That's interesting. I see surveys that say baby boomers are into Pinterest, but and I've got an account and I go in there every once in a while, but I don't know. It just what we're talking about doesn't seem to have really taken off in there. I don't know what the deal
Well,
is.
no, it's more for like, lifestyle things, travel,
Yes, yes.
things like that. More like home decorating or
Right. No, I have seen that kind of the crafts, and there's my father was a dentist, but early in life, in his later teenage years, he played a saxophone in a small circus in Minnesota that
Oh,
toured around. And I was able to go back and find pictures of the circus, and
wow.
one of the best sources of that was this site that was a Pinterest site that had followed this circus, and
Yeah,
these
you
are.
never know what's on there. I
Yeah.
posted a few things on there that just like took off, and you're going,
Wow.
oh, who knew that?
Yes, and then you try to do it again. That's the problem with viral, is you
Yeah,
don't know it's going to be viral till it is, and then you don't know how to.
yeah. One of my biggest posts on Pinterest was a Polish sauerkraut soup.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I mean that thing went crazy.
Ah,
Got like
that's
about
funny.
13,000 saves or something on it.
Oh my God.
It was crazy. And it keeps
Wow.
going.
Yes, yeah.
Who knew all those people like sauerkraut?
Yeah, so if you got the Polish sauerkraut soup, maybe the Polish sauerkraut dip would be the next.
Yeah. Yeah, that was funny. So tell me a little bit more about your book and you know
Sure.
what you offer.
Well, I wrote the book because a lot of times people would say, "What could I possibly do online?" After I give a 20 or 30-minute talk to a group or something like that. And as you well know, it's almost like, what can't you do online? You can do so much. And particularly for baby boomers, because that's almost exclusively who we work with,
Mm-hmm.
is people that they have decades of experience doing things.
Mm-hmm.
And they have decades of solving problems and, applying skills, like have done thousands of PowerPoint presentations or created thousands of spreadsheets over their career or whatever it is. So they really know how to do lots of skills,
Mm-hmm.
but it's like fish swimming in water. They don't even realize they're in this rich skill set. And so the hard part for baby boomers is getting acclimated to the virtual world.
Mm-hmm.
And sort of what I feel like we do is we help them get through that portal. We help them figure out what skills they got that are going to be useful online, and then we sort of, you know, take them through the tube and bring them out the other side. And once they realize that, hey, I'm just doing the same thing I used to do at my company or when I had a job or whatever it was,
Mm-hmm.
then they tend to flourish,
Yeah.
because they're just doing what they already know how to do. And so we help orient them to the freelance world. You have a profile instead of a resume, and a resume is very chronologically oriented. A profile is very skills oriented, and what we like to call domains of knowledge. This is really the kind of the secret to working as a well-paid freelancer,
Mm-hmm.
in that a lot of people want to go in and they say, well, I want to do proofreading. That's all I want to do as an English teacher. And, I'm really good at that. Well, you may be good at proofreading, but there's also millions of other people in these networks that do proofreading. But
Mm-hmm.
if you've got a uniqueness in your background, and it could be anything from you were an engineer at work, or you uh, volunteered for fundraising for 20 years for the United Way, or you go camping with the scouts and you know everything there is to know about camping. When you can marry your skill with your domain of knowledge, that's where you make the most money. And this is what most baby boomers, in my experience, and freelancers in general, don't get about working on these networks. Are always complaining about, well, the pay is low and the jobs are small and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And something you certainly will appreciate is that those small jobs are people that can write big checks. This is the way they audition you.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, in fact, I use this example in part of our course, is that when I lived in Los Angeles, I'd see people spend hundreds up to $1,000 getting ready for an audition. They'd buy a certain shirt, they'd get their hair cut a certain way, they'd do all these things,
Yeah.
and they would go in and audition. Well, in the online world, what they do is they say, hey, we need an article on this topic, and they'll award the same exact job to 5 different writers. And then they'll see what comes back and say, well, this person did a cut and paste from Wikipedia. This person, is a good writer, but they know nothing about our field. And then, narrow it down to 1 or 2 that they then go back and negotiate a more well compensated and ongoing relationship with. And so that's kind of, there's a lot of myths around online freelancing and freelancing in general, and we kind of help people understand how the game is being played, which is not obvious on the surface, really.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, I mean, I backed into this business. I'd moved to Mexico and had always been kind of a, career advisor to different people that I worked with, many who were my same age, but, plus or minus 10 years. And so they'd say after I moved to Mexico, well, tell me again how you're living in Mexico and you're running your consulting business in the United States. And I'd say, well, this is what I'm doing. This is how I do it. And they'd say, well, gee, do you think I could do something like that? And by the time this, they were asking me this question, I'd been on Elance for a number of years, which is one of the early networks. And I suggested they get on Elance. And I would have these emails going back and forth. I said, well, set up a profile on Elance. Here's the link. And they'd send me back an email and say, well, what do I put in my profile? And I'd send them back, another, well, you should do this. And then they say, could I send you my profile to look at? Okay, yeah, change this, do that. And so one of the people I had helped said, you ought to turn this into a course. And I said, really? You think so? And that was about 40,000 people ago. So it's been a very popular
Wow.
course for baby boomers. So
yeah, that's huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, courses seem to be the big thing right now too.
Yes.
Teachable and all those, online things.
Yes. Yeah. No, the courses are great. A lot of people have a lot of great knowledge to impart, and a lot of courses are redundant too. And that's it's all about. And this is same thing as in acting or any talent area. You have to differentiate yourself, and that's what we really focus on, is getting baby boomers to differentiate themselves. Even if you had a job 20 years ago where you spent 5 years in inventory management for a warehouse, you still know more than about inventory management in a warehouse than 99.9% of all the other people on the planet. So and baby boomers are just a little bit, they too easily flush what their previous experience is.
Yeah.
And it's really something they can tap into.
Yeah, it's true. I started blogging because it was creative. I just needed like a creative to do. So
yeah,
I never thought of myself as a writer, actually.
Oh, interesting. Yes.
Yeah, and then it took me a while. I ended up like rewriting a lot of blog posts after I got a little bit better.
Oh yes, yeah. Well, that's how you learn. I was not much of a writer before I started my own freelancing stuff. And now I write 20-25 articles a year that are published someplace, usually International Living.
Yeah.
And it's hilarious to me because anybody that knew me up to 2001 would say, you a writer? So and doing the writing over and over again, because as you know, when you're doing this stuff, you say, oh, this is garbage, and then you rewrite it, but you get better and you go find a book or a place online to how to organize an article or how to write an article or how to make an article humorous or whatever. And
yeah,
all that stuff kind of accrues over time.
Do you write about living in Mexico, or do you write about business? Like
mostly about business, but I try to bring in the experience of it, because a lot of myself included, I worked in one of the tall glass buildings in El Segundo for most of my sort of Southern California career. And wore a business suit every day and a tie and went out and saw clients and that kind of thing. And so I was really, for the better part of 20 years, trying to figure out how to break out of corporate America. And then as you kind of age out of that, you get gray hair and you don't get the great assignments anymore. You lose your hair and they, tell you to go take a nap after lunch or whatever. And, eventually you're kind of marginalized in a corporate structure in particular. I mean, I have experience there. I don't so much, but I imagine it's the same anywhere. And I was just always kind of looking for that. How do I do something different? So I have to share a lot of the story so people can see how they might have been on the same path and get to that point. And a lot of people feel that there has to be something out there where I can just flip the switch and this happens. And
Yeah.
what I learned myself is that no, I started a freelancing business on the side, and I did it about 5% of the time at first, and then I got some repeat business, and so I was up to 10%, and eventually got to the point where I said, I think I can do this. And the dot-com economy came along, and the job I was working in, they cut my pay in half
Oh,
and laid off 3 out of every 4 people in my department. So I had to do all the work still for half the pay. And I just said, forget it. I'm going to do this on my own. And
yeah. Um,
was able to
what made
keep myself fed.
what made you decide to go to Mexico?
Let's see. I decided it was in about 2005, 2006, and I was. It was after I'd gotten divorced from a 26-year relationship, and connected with a family friend from 30 some years earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And we were engaged, and she went on a trip to Mexico with a girlfriend of hers, and it called up with a guess what call. Guess what? I just signed a contract on a condominium in Huatulco, Mexico. And I'm like, what? And then she said it's in the state of Oaxaca, as if that was, these are 2 names I'd never heard in my life.
Yeah.
And immediately panicked and thought, move to Mexico, you got to be crazy. And so the place was finished about 2 years later, and we moved down there.
Nice.
And I loved it, and she hated it.
That's funny.
And so we went our separate ways after a little while. And I've just, it's so liberating to be in a different culture. It's just interesting to get, you get a whole new set of ways to do things and ways to think about things.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's also, the thing I notice when I come back to the United States is that people are kind of edgy. There's just an edginess here that you don't so much have in living in Mexico. And of course, in this time, Airbnb and Uber and all these things came along. So I've stayed in Airbnbs in Ecuador and London and Panama and Thailand, and it's just been an interesting new way. It's kind of like, I remember this cartoon of Mr. Magoo, and he couldn't see very well, but he's walking along, and and this crane is going up, and then he steps off onto a beam, and the beam goes down, but you can travel like that. I mean, you just go anywhere.
Yeah.
And I mean, that this was up until 60 days ago,
Right.
but we all presume it'll be back. I mean, I hope it's back in 3 months. It may not be for 2 years, but it will be back.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very easy just to put this stuff together, where before you had to make reservations and fax me the this and all that kind of stuff. And now it's just like Barbara Streisand says, like butter. It's
Yeah. Do you think, like with Airbnb, I was wondering how that was going to work out after this, because I think some people, especially like I just took part in a travel conference with people like Peter Greenberg and
mm-hmm.
guys, and they were saying you know, that baby boomers especially would probably feel more comfortable in like a chain hotel only because of the sanitation part of it.
Yeah.
Whereas, yeah, I'm just not sure how that's gonna come out.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. I mean, especially air travel, because
Mhm.
I noticed that about 1 out of every 3 trips I took, I
Mhm.
would get something. And
Oh,
I kind of researched it. You know, I'd get a respiratory infection. And one article I read said that on an international flight of 8 hours or more, that if one person is in the infectious stage of a respiratory virus, that 23% of the people on the plane will get that virus. You
oh,
know,
man.
and so a big opportunity for planes to keep up. But then I have a friend who is in the immunology business, and he said it's really important that we keep challenging our immune systems.
Mhm.
That's what builds our immunity. And he said it's a false hope to think you can sterilize your way out of this situation. You know,
Yeah.
we all need to be exposed. In fact, that's one of the controversial things about the masks is um, I saw this thing from Dr. Fauci. This is before all the stuff got really bad.
Hmm.
He said, no, masks are crazy because, uh, what happens is people are always adjusting their mask, which means they're touching their face,
Yeah.
which means that they're, likely to pick up something and put it in on their face, so
Yes.
but the good news is I think we'll all know a lot more about this, but I I kind of think that it'll get back to the point of I mean, this bug was very strange. Once they get a vaccine, which is a whole different question, is do you want to get a vaccine? But once this is kind of dies down, which all viruses of this type do, eventually, um, I think we'll be back to normal. I mean, I just so enjoyed Airbnb, and I think one of their ads was "Live like a local," and that
Yeah, that's the
is,
nice part about it.
yeah,
I love that kind of thing. Like even if I've when I went traveling, I always preferred staying in a like a foreign run like small
yes,
hotel more than I'd like
yeah,
to be in a big chain hotel, even though
right,
people get their points and everything from them.
yes, yes, yeah. When I would travel on business, we always had to stay whatever if the company had an arrangement with Marriott or Hilton or something like that.
Yeah.
And it was just so nice to be able to start picking where you were staying rather than,
Yeah, sometimes it's more interesting. Like you're kind of more
yes,
in with the culture and everything.
yes, yes. And you're forced to least learn hello, goodbye, please, and thank you, and
Yeah.
it's, yeah.
Wow, this has been really interesting. I'm
Uh,
glad you decided to do this.
Yeah, well, it's and you've found this path very early on. I mean, that's the other neat part of this. I mean, as I was reading through your website, you completely get it. I mean, my sentiments exactly is that this is out there,
Mhm.
and right now it's easier to go get than ever before.
Right.
That's when you were started to build websites. That's like a three-ring circus trying to
I know.
run a business doing that, and
Well, and I'm also coming from not having a 9 to 5, 401k and all that stuff
yes,
too.
yes,
Like really.
yeah,
So I
yeah,
haven't gotten rich yet, but I'm having fun. Like
yes,
my brother, who's kind of like kind of in an opposite, like he's
yes,
thing.
opposite universe, yes,
Yeah,
right.
why don't you get a job as a dog walker or something?
Oh yeah,
Like yeah,
oh wow,
why would I want to make like
yeah,
$2 an hour?
yeah,
I don't have to.
can't afford the pay cut, yeah,
I mean, I love
yeah,
dogs. I have 2 dogs
right,
back there.
yes, oh neat, yeah.
But
Well, the financial planning advice, this is I don't want to disparage financial planners, because
yeah,
when we were in our 30s, they said things like, well, if you open up an IRA or a 401k and you just put, it seemed like $10 a month in there, you'll be a millionaire by the time you're
Right.
60. And all of us thought, well, who's ever going to be 60? I mean, that's forever. And, but it, what you find, and a lot of people that live in San Miguel are like this. They're very intelligent, they're very well educated, but for one reason or another, their financial resources got zapped somewhere along the way. And they don't have the quote $1,000,000 that their financial planner told them they needed to have in their bank account in order to live their lives.
Yeah.
But and that's out there. But I've had financial planners tell me that your message is so much better than my message right now with my clients, because basically I'm telling them they got to downsize, they got to get into a smaller house, they got to get rid of one of their cars,
Yeah.
they better start looking at dog food recipes, or whatever it is. And it's just if you can earn 200 $300 a week,
Yeah.
and you have Social Security or whatever it is, you can offset a lot of stuff, and it makes a big difference. But I know that many baby boomers feel defeated by the whole financial situation, and they just kind of, they know they're going over the falls and they just go whatever, but
Yeah. And some of them can't accept change either. Like for me,
yes.
I've downsized from at one point I had a 2,500 square foot house and
Oh, wow.
went to a trailer down to an apartment.
Yes.
Now I'm in a room right now.
Yes. Yeah.
And then who knows?
Well, right. And at the end of the day,
We're freeing.
yes, it's
Yeah, I mean, sometimes less is more. It's like,
yes,
not bad.
completely.
Yeah.
Well, at one point when I lived in El Segundo, we bought this house that had been designed by a protege of Frank Lloyd Wright.
Oh, wow.
And it had some very interesting landscaping, but I had a landscape architect that used to come once a year to kind of make sure the design was unfolding as it should. And then I had a landscape shaper that would come once a month. And then I had the yard guy that would come once I don't know, week or two or whatever. And then I had the pool guy and the jacuzzi guy, because the pool guy doesn't do jacuzzis and the jacuzzi guy didn't, and this is like Steve Martin comedies of living in LA. You have this fleet of people that are zooming in and out of your house, and you're writing checks, and wow, I spent that much to, the house had a water feature in it where there were 2 ponds outside. It was kind of at the bottom of a U.
Wow.
And it was a koi pond, and so the koi could swim underneath, and I mean, it was a very nice feature, but the previous owner had turned it into a planter because they just didn't want the aggravation of having to keep it going. I mean, it had all this filtering system and oxygenation system and everything. Wow. And so my kids, said, "Oh, gee, can we hook this up?" And being the idiot and not knowing how much it was going to cost, I said, "Sure." And we went out and bought these very expensive koi fish when we got it all set up. And I got up one night in the middle of the night and I heard something, and I went out there, and there was a family of raccoons. This is in El Segundo, eating the koi.
God.
It's like, oh my God, so.
Oh gosh, who would have thought?
Yes. In Los Angeles, El Segundo's just borders the airport, so it's not like you're out in the jungle. But
well, I was living up in Woolsey Canyon for a while, like way up
interesting.
rocks,
Yes, yeah.
and it was in a mobile home park up there that it was really beautiful. I mean,
Yeah, yeah, it's a gorgeous area. Yeah.
but there'd be coyotes walking down the street, and they were so common that you just waved to them. Like some of them had names,
Yes, yes, yeah.
And then there were like rabbits, like tons of rabbits that they
Oh wow.
made. And I mean, you couldn't let your dogs out or anything, but yeah, it was pretty.
I think I've seen it. Have you seen the guy from Saturday Night Live has this video podcast called something like Walking with Kevin Nealon or
Yeah,
something.
I haven't seen that. I've heard of it.
And he kind of, he's with famous people like, Jack Black or whatever. And they just go walking in those trails. Some of them are up in that area, and it's just
Oh wow!
gorgeous. Yeah.
Look at
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. You'll recognize that, I'm sure.
Yeah, sometimes I'll watch YouTube just to get some humor.
Yes, yes, yes. Yeah. That's
I don't
funny.
want to keep you too long, but I think I got quite a bit that I can write about.
Yeah. Well, when I saw your site, I mean, you get the story. The story is that baby boomers can do more than they think they can do.
Yeah,
And,
and
and
they have all this wisdom.
yes, yes. And they've been solving problems for 40 years. And now the brain science is kind of coming out on this that says every time you solve a problem, you kind of create a template for solving similar problems. And the more problems you solve of different varieties, the more templates you have.
Yeah.
And that's where baby boomers are really good at adapting if they can just get over the technology piece and it's not supposed to work like that part.
I totally surprised myself when it came to technology. Like I had no idea I was such a geek.
Yes.
I really I figured all this stuff out, and then I was
Wow.
teaching people how to do it, and
Yeah.
It was funny because when I was in high school, they had an aptitude test, and I had for some reason, a really high mark in mechanical reasoning, and I couldn't figure it out.
Oh wow.
Because I was trying to be I was like in the theater department.
Yes, sure.
And then it finally, after like 10 years ago, I discovered
Wow.
I actually did have it.
Yes, your inner geek. Well, that's, I mean, as you know, women are not, statistically, they don't branch in that direction. And there's a lot of emphasis on encouraging women to go into, engineering and programming and that kind of thing. And
yeah,
but it's rare.
Yeah, I know. I always like figuring out the computer. Like I figured
that's neat.
I don't know. It just I wouldn't build a computer or anything, but I don't know. It was just there.
Yeah, it's like a puzzle. As I went to work 36 years ago for Apple Computer. In the early days. In fact, Apple's first office in San Diego was in my bedroom, and so at my phone, I had a business phone in there, and it was listed under Apple Computer.
Yeah.
Because that's what it was. And so every once in a while, I would get a call, usually from the East Coast, because people would call directory assistants, and they wouldn't know whether Apple was in Cupertino or they just knew they were in California. Well, don't you have a listing for Apple in California? And so I'd get a call at 7:00 in the morning in my bedroom of somebody that I want to talk to Steve Jobs.
You were working from home then.
Yeah. No, that was, gosh, that's back to the early 80s. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Oh, it's getting warm in here.
Yeah, this is that time of year. I used to live in Texas, and where I live in San Miguel in Mexico, it's at 6,200 feet. So even though it's hot during the day, it gets nice and cool at night down into the 50s. A little bit like LA, but
yeah. You said you were in Dallas?
Yes, I'm in Dallas right now.
Yeah, I've been to Dallas a few times.
Yeah, it's
interesting.
hot. And I haven't been out of this house other than to put the garbage on the curb in 2 months, which is just
wow.
so So weird, but the good news is, I live in a virtual world, so I get to have phone calls like this all day long, and we do trainings every Tuesday night. We have a big training we do for people in our freelance programs, and then we have coaches, and we do trainings for the coaches on Wednesday night, and so I don't feel deprived of a social life.
Yeah.
Which I know if somebody's used to going into work every day, this is like, you know. Uh, but people say, "Aren't you bored?" And I say, I've been talking to people all day long, and
I have too. I've been doing conferences, and you
uh-huh.
did several of those, and we have little Zoom meetings, and
Yes. Yeah, and the environment is so rich now. I mean, it used to be you could do Skype audio calls when
yeah.
I left LA, and now you've got Zoom and all this stuff, and even better is coming. There's going to be 3D. You're gonna, I don't know how they're going to work it all out, but you'll put on a helmet or visual thing of
Oh,
some
like a
kind, and
virtual reality. Yeah.
yeah, you'll be like you're sitting in the room with people. So it's
Wow.
a
Yeah, it
lot of
might be the new thing. I don't know.
yes.
I had a podcast for a while, and me and my girlfriend did it, and then she moved to Laguna Hill, Laguna
Uh,
Woods.
oh wow,
And
yeah.
started having so much fun there. I couldn't get her to schedule anything, but
Focus on right.
yeah, but we were interviewing people from all over the place on Skype. But I would much
Nice.
rather do it on Zoom now, I think.
Yeah, Zoom is so much easier, and
You could put it right on YouTube.
yes, yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's the ability to create content is phenomenal.
Yeah.
With just all the years of just the simple trying to trim the beginning off a video was like a monumental task, and now
Yeah.
it's just easy.
Wow. Well, thank you so much. Yeah,
Yeah, I've enjoyed it. This
it's
is
delightful.
yeah. Well, it's a little bit like we're in the same church, and we're both saving the same kind of souls, and getting people to slap themselves and say you can do this. There's a lot of good things you can do, and
Yeah, and it
most of
keeps your brain active so that you.
yes, yeah. A lot of people start out doing this because they think they need the money. They're not really sure. And a lot of people, as they go into retirement, want to push off the date if they do have resources, or they want to push off the date they have to tap that. And by doing this kind of stuff, every phone bill you can pay for with your freelancing this week is a phone bill you don't have to pay out of your savings, and
Exactly.
it's you can work it up from there. So
Wow. All right. Well, I'll let you go. You probably have more meetings and stuff.
well, International Living has been very good about lining up, podcasts and interviews and different things. And I wrote a book about 13 years ago on what I did professionally, which is writing white papers for technology companies that would help explain their technology.
Uh-huh.
And so this book was really fun because this is more what I'm living every day now, and I've seen enough people over the years go from this, I don't think I can do this, to wow, this is pretty easy, so
Wow.
that's always enjoyable. And most of the people that we work with, they want to make somewhere between $500 and $1,500 a month. They don't need to knock it out of the park,
Yeah.
uh, and that's and they usually come in because they think it's about the money, but they stay when they see kind of how rewarding it is to help somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
And I was talking to somebody at one of these conferences I speak at, and he was saying, well, I don't really want to do freelancing. I trade stocks or commodities, or he was doing something financial. And I was just saying, that's good, you're making money, you're doing what you want to do, but I just personally feel a whole lot better at the end of the day if I've helped somebody, even if they're paying me, if I've helped them a
Yeah.
little bit further down the road. If you're trading commodities or whatever, you're sitting there at a console and you're looking at graphs and the wheat price and the monsoon season in Southeast Asia, and and you go out to dinner and you're thinking, God, should I have made that trade? Maybe I can make an offsetting trade tomorrow. And you know, that's not what you want to do when you retire. In
Yeah.
my mind, you want to have an experience rather than same old grind. So
Right. Right. Yeah. I know that's what I like about what I'm doing. There's always something. Yeah.
yeah, no, that's the creativity. I mean, you've really tapped into really exploiting in a favorable way your creativity. That's
Yeah.
that's really what you're doing.
And
Yeah,
a lot of it comes to me too. I mean, I don't have to seek it out so much. It just shows up. You know,
that's nice.
people contact me or
Uh-huh.
like you.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
Well,
meet a really
that's a,
interesting person,
that
it's really cool.
that's a different discussion, but I do feel like when you kind of get in alignment with what you're doing, that doors blow open. I worked in lots of businesses and lots of companies over the years where we did lots of planning and all this kind of stuff, and nothing ever unfolds exactly as planned. It always varies. But this business literally grew out of just helping a few people figure out how to do this. And there was no business plan. There was no we're going to do this. And to this day, there's no goal of, oh, we got to grow this much or we got to hit this number. It's just we help people, and to the extent that we do that well, we get more people to help, and that's what we do.
That's awesome. All
Yeah.
right. Well, thanks, Winton.
All righty. Well, thank you. Hope our paths cross again.
Yeah.
So